Hey everyone, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Mayor's Table. With me today is the COO of Enchant Energy, Peter Mandelstam, and Farmington Electric Utility Director, Hank Adair. Today, we're talking about the San Juan project at the San Juan Generating Station. Hey everyone, City of Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett here at the San Juan Safe Communities building and office. I want to thank Greg Allen for setting this studio up today for myself and our special guests as we break down and talk about the San Juan project happening at the San Juan Generating Station. And with me today is COO of Enchant Energy, Peter Mandelstam. Peter, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be here, Mayor. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Hank Adair, Farmington Electric Utility Director. Thank you as well for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Well, I just thought it was a good opportunity with a lot of information and news that's coming out about Enchant Energy and the City of Farmington's project to bring an update for everybody in the city to kind of understand what exactly is going on. COVID-19 has obviously thrown a wrench into a lot of timelines and a lot of news stories. And so folks are wondering, where do we stand right now with carbon capture, utilization, and storage out at the San Juan Generating Station. So again, thank you for both being here. Peter, I just kind of want to kick this off. We've got some recent news that's come out in regards to an MOU signed with San Juan College, and then also information regarding Bank of America. But I want to, maybe I should preface this before we move into that. The carbon capture, utilization, and storage project that we're working on at the San Juan Generating Station has been going on now since 2018. And that's when Enchant Energy and the City of Farmington kind of came together and said, hey, we want to find a long-term solution to how we can sustain 1,500 direct and indirect jobs, high-paying jobs, job with benefits, jobs that don't require you necessarily to have to get a 4-year degree to go out and make a living and feed your family and have a good quality of life. Those were kind of the motivating factors in where the City of Farmington was when we worked and found Enchant Energy and brought everybody together into that fold. And now that we're 2 years into this, we're coming into some interesting times as to when exactly we'll start seeing some fruition, some things happening with the project itself. So, Peter, Bank of America announcement last week through the New York Times article that you're working in partnership with them, and maybe you can help us understand that and then break down what's going on at San Juan College.
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Hank. It's really a delight to be here. We at Enchant are very proud of our relationship with Bank of America. We've been talking to them since November of 2019. It was a 7-month effort. Bank of America is the most highly regarded and the most successful of all the so-called tax equity banks. They've been ranked number 1 for the last 4 or 5 years. The head person, Ray Wood, a man I've known since 2008, helped me sell one of my companies. So we're very proud. What Bank of America will do is they will canvass the tax equity market. There's been a large and robust market historically for wind and solar. Those are going away. And now the new tax credit that Wall Street is very happy about is 45Q, which will benefit the San Juan project. So what Bank of America will do is they will raise the approximately $1.3 billion in so-called permanent capital. That's cash equity, tax equity, and debt. And that will allow us to construct the project and then operate it for at least 12 years.
Bank of America is a big name, I think, to throw into the mix of the companies that have joined in, including Sargent & Lundy, Kiewit Construction, Mitsubishi, now Bank of America. That to me is a strong starting bench, or a starting team, so to speak, as we move forward. And I think that's exciting for people here in San Juan County, recognizing that this is Enchant Energy. When you guys first came in, of course, it was Acme at the time that we initiated these conversations. But who are these guys, and what kind of clout do they carry, and what is their experience? And when you put a team together, in my mind, when you're pulling a team in that has as much experience as those companies have in playing in this type of environment, that builds a strong starting foundation for where this project's going to go.
I think, Mr. Mayor, the team is just the right word. Hank and I have been happy partners since I joined the company in October. I have completed now 30 years of energy development, but I joined the company in October. I moved to Farmington proudly in December of 2019. What we've seen is the best of the public sector and the private sector. We three work well together, as evidenced by what happened last week at San Juan College. Our contractor, Peter Kiewit Power Constructors, has done a recent estimate. Mr. Mayor, 2 million worker hours will be required just for the carbon capture island. That's in addition, or that doesn't include the renovation of the existing San Juan Units 1 and 4 or the construction of the CO2 pipeline. So with 2 million worker hours, we're going to need to train a lot of local folks. And so the three of us stood with President Pendergrass and signed an MOU to do that training here in Farmington at San Juan College. We're very proud to be part of that.
Hank, what does that mean, do you think, for this area to have a facility like San Juan College that's dedicated to learning and now has an energy wing that was already a part of it, and now it's transitioning into a new type of energy training? What do you think that means for our area?
I think it's huge, and it's a springboard, Mr. Mayor, for utilities across the nation. CCS or CCUS is not going away. It's a technology proven, and we'll see more and more applications across the United States and across, frankly, the world with it. Having that technology and doing it here at our college allows us a springboard to become the center of excellence for it. And I'll speak from experience. You know, as a utility director and as an engineering manager, we hire positions to be in our fold or our team for, like, let's say, generation operations. The utility looks for requirements that include even a 2-year apprenticeship program or a degreed program from a college, if you will. What's nice about the industrial process operator program that they have up there is not only is it based in theory and science, but with their labs, it's actual practical. I mean, they actually have a unit they operate.
Very hands-on.
It's hands-on, so
Right.
you get the practical with the science, and that combined makes what School of Energy is so special. For example, I'll give you their instrumentation, their controls, their controls or their instrumentation equipment is identical to what's at San Juan plant at that School of Energy on that boiler and plant they operate. So not only are you learning on equipment, the practicalness, but it also ties to the actual equipment that they use both at San Juan plant and we use as FEUS at our Bluffview gas plant. So it brings the science, the technical, the practical. It makes for a talented individual coming out when they graduate.
Sure. You make a good point, Hank, in regards to carbon capture has been proven. We know of a couple of facilities here in North America that have been successful in it, but it's also been utilized for years on smaller scales in natural gas plants and different places like that. Now, what we're doing is we're ramping it up to a much larger facility at San Juan Generating Station, and my understanding is we're going to continue to operate units 1 and 4. Is it going to stay units 1 and 4?
It will. The units will continue in their normal operation of San Juan Units 1 and 4. What's beneficial is then the plant will also just take the exit of the gas that would normally go up the stack and then capture it and then move it to our carbon capture facility. It'll be a very big one, but again, as you mentioned, it's proven, but it's a scalability proven. So it's just like the modules that have been built previously, just add modules and scale size. Now, don't get me wrong, I speak simplistic. There's been a significant amount of heavy lifting done by Sargent Lundy and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, or Industry of America. They have been doing a lot of engineering analysis to get there, but the provenness of it and the modular design just scaled up just allows it to grow to the scale that we need. What makes San Juan unique, and the benefit of that is with 1 and 4 being there, 2 and 3 are retired, so a lot of the capital investment you would need for a carbon capture facility, that is already there and established, that was used for purpose of operating 2 and 3 for generation. Now many pieces of that equipment can be repurposed for the carbon capture facility, therefore reducing capital costs, increasing reliability and redundancy, for example.
Sure. Well, the fact that it is a known and as far as technology the technology of CCS goes, we're now to the point where the 45Q tax credits, the IRS has released kind of their roadmap for investors. Peter, I'd like for you to kind of talk about that, because aren't these kind of similar tax credits that we saw invested into the wind and solar industries some years ago?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. I'm a veteran of working with the wind and solar credits. I was there for 7 extensions of the wind credit. And so what we've seen now is the Internal Revenue Service has issued the final guidelines. They'll be effective on July 2. And so it's the right moment for us to now go out to the market, which is why we're working with Bank of America. The 45Q is, I think, very good public policy. It was bipartisan, was part of the Bipartisan Tax Act of 2018. What it will do is it will allow private entrepreneurs, such as Enchant Energy, to take their risk capital. By the time we get our first nickel back, we'll have put $1.3 billion in. We're willing to take that risk. What the tax credit says is if an entrepreneur takes the risk, puts up the money, constructs the project, and then puts it in service and starts stripping carbon dioxide, in our case, thanks to Mitsubishi, more than 90% of the CO2, as Hank said, that goes up the stack will be captured before it goes into the atmosphere. So the 45Q will give us a tax credit of $35 if the carbon dioxide that we capture goes to enhanced oil recovery in the Permian. We want to do that in New Mexico. Or $50 a ton if it gets captured and then directly injected into the ground. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, we're very proud to have recently been awarded a Department of Energy cooperative funding agreement for $22 million. This $22 million, working with New Mexico Tech in the lead, will allow us, really New Mexico Tech will drill a test well near the power plant, and we hope that the geology deep underground will support the injection of carbon dioxide such that it's captured and held, I kid you not, for 990 years. I actually asked the scientists at New Mexico Tech, why 990 years? They said that's the time that we've calculated that a molecule of carbon dioxide will either enter the oceans or leak out to outer space, and so there'll be no climate impact. So we and New Mexico Tech are committed to drilling the well and figuring out if we can do it. But Plan A, which is financeable today, is to send it to the Permian and do enhanced oil recovery. The enhanced oil comes up, the CO2 is separated, as you said, Mr. Mayor, as it's historically been. It gets re-injected into the ground, more oil comes up, re-injected, so that the CO2, according to the 45Q tax credit, is always captured in the ground. It comes up and goes back in.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good information available online regarding the CCUS, and the way that it works. I mean, is there one particular site that you, Enchant Energy?
www.enchantenergy.com. Because Hank and I are in a public-private partnership, we're unusually transparent.
Sure.
We hired Sargent and Lundy to do a feasibility analysis. That's online. Whenever we do a presentation, that's online. All the news articles, almost all of them are good, but a few of them are critical, and we welcome that. They're online. So the Enchant Energy website is the best one-stop shop, Mr. Mayor.
You know, we've done a few episodes on this project, but it's been a while, so I think it would be really good for folks. Make sure you check out that website, kind of learn a little bit about what exactly CCS is. And, I mean, obviously, in our situation, looking broadly across the United States and across the world, fossil fuel is still the #1 energy source for heating homes and all the things we need to turn the lights on, so forth and so on. That's not going to change, I don't think, in any time soon. And obviously, there's been a lot of talk out there in regards to, you know, in 20 years, we're going to try and be carbon free. Many people have said that this technology is really going to be the key that gets us to that level to really truly have an impact of reducing carbon and still sustaining the way of life that we've all grown accustomed to, and really in third world countries where they've not even become accustomed to yet. So this project to me speaks near and dear, not only for the fact that as a local area, we're going to be able to sustain the jobs. We're also going to be able to grow jobs into a new technology and train people that we can send across the world who will have had some start here in their training in Farmington, New Mexico, in San Juan County at San Juan College. That really is, it makes us kind of that beacon, that light, Hank. Hank, in regards to, I mean, obviously a lot of questions going on. There's a lot of moving pieces in this.
There is.
I'm a positive, optimistic individual, so a lot of times I'm trying to move beyond the negative, move beyond the idea that there's going to be some sort of wall that runs in our way that's going to stop us. And I've stayed on that path, and I'm not stopping, by the way. But the moving pieces involved, specifically with the current owners and even the past owners who have some say in regards to kind of where we're going with our project. How are those owners meeting going? I don't know how much you can disclose, but I think it would be good for people to kind of have an idea of where this is going.
Sure, of course, Mr. Mayor. Well, we've met with the owners. We met with them again at the end of May and had discussions with them. I think the key philosophy, and that includes all 9 owners, which, I call Farmington an owner as well. So the existing 5 that are currently in the plant and the 4 that have left, but all of them have agreements that we need to work out amongst ourselves as ownership. I would say the meetings are going well, but there's a lot of questions and needs for what I would call a surety as the owners leave the plant. Farmington and Enchant, we're looking to supply them the obligation and the confidence and comfort which we fully have vested out with what we've done for analysis to say, once we take over the plant, you'll have, quote unquote, what we consider a clean break approach. So when we call it, quote unquote, the clean break approach, that's the effort that in Farmington or Enchant are working with those owners. I would say we got great feedback in that late May meeting, and we are working through all of the obligations, processes, and input we have received from them. At the same time, we've come up with other specific subcategories of what some of the assets look like that both the ownership and Enchant and Farmington have come to agreements on that we have agreed to, that we're proceeding on those steps. So I would say the progress is there. We still need to answer some of those key questions, and we have those answers for them. And so the next meeting, I think that'll put the depth to it. I would say what we've done is give them the mechanisms, and then we're getting into the sweat equity and the details, because that's where the fine print is at to get through.
Sure, and it's understandable. You know, the owners who are stepping away want to have some confidence that they're not stepping away from something that they're going to have to put money into later as a part of the agreement. So we're wanting to give them that ability to step away cleanly, as I understand it, and so that this project becomes fully owned, operated, and sustained by Enchant Energy and the partners that are involved in that. So good. In regards to the Public Regulation Commission, obviously that's been a big part of the news surrounding San Juan Generating Station, surrounding the bill that's been passed in regards to renewable portfolio standards and all of those things. Has anything that the PRC ruled on been against the project or hampered our ability to move forward?
Mr. Mayor, I would say no. I think, one, the approval of abandonment of the plant, that's what we expected, that's what we needed for the obligation for the owners. And again, the PRC is regulating for Public Service New Mexico, although they're the major entity and the owner-operator for the plant, right? The other owners can be in the different states. But specific to the PRC and specific to PNM, I don't think there has been anything that they've ruled on that is a hazard or a significant detriment to the Enchant Farmington project going forward. So I think, as we say, you know, the PRC is working through their processes, and we continue to monitor and support. But really, honestly, there hasn't been anything detrimental to the project.
Excellent. Peter, you and I spent some time in Washington, D.C. earlier this year. We've also been to Moab, and we were in D.C. last year as well. You know, there's a number of these projects that are slated all across the United States. And I think it's important for people to know that this isn't just some singularity that's occurring in Farmington. Everybody's competing, or companies who are interested in this, they're competing for the 45Q tax credits, and they're putting their projects first. What I found interesting, though, and maybe you felt this as well, is in my visit to D.C., the Department of Energy feedback that I got is so positive that we're in the right place at the right time with the right momentum to see this come to fruition. And to see long-term sustainable carbon capture power coming out of San Juan County. Now that we have gone through the COVID-19 experience, or we're still well into the COVID-19 experience and the impact to the United States economy, how important do you feel projects like these are going to be to help with the long-term recovery here in this country?
Mayor Duckett, I think you make a very good point. You and I had some very productive meetings in D.C. We're proud to have received 2 distinct Department of Energy cooperative funding agreements for more than $24 million. Having been working in D.C. for now more than 20 years, I think it's very good public policy, and I think the folks we met with, Ben Ray Lujan, the staffs of the 2 U.S. senators, the entire New Mexico congressional delegation, I think what they see is that this is the next energy policy based on their successful experience with first solar and then wind and offshore wind and now carbon capture. So I think you're right that the folks in DC understand that the project in San Juan is the largest in the world. It's going to be the next one to be operational, but there's an entire industry, as you said, behind it. So the other reason I think we three are so happy about the San Juan College job training and workforce development is there's going to be an entire industry and a need for thousands and thousands of specialized workers. They should all be trained here in San Juan County.
I agree. Absolutely agree. And we've gotten a lot of that, rural America is being impacted in so many areas because it's heavily an energy component of what's driven the economies in these areas. So we have an abundance of natural resources in San Juan County and trying to find ways to continue to use them. And I think in this situation, the win-win-wins that we've talked about is that win for environment should not be undersold.
No.
That's part of the reason why there's such push in Washington, D.C. to see these types of projects come to fruition. But the win for the environment, the win for the economy, and the win for CCSD school district, for Central Consolidated School District, and sustaining their tax base. I mean, it's touching every part of our world that we live in when these projects, or this project specifically, find success. Peter, when do you anticipate, I mean, if all things being fair and equal and we were able to get through any of these next hurdles, clearing them fairly easily, when do you anticipate seeing some sort of construction or breaking ground taking place at the San Juan Generating Station?
As Hank said, he and I have been working well with the current and former participant owners, the 9 members, including, of course, Farmington. And if everything goes well, and we're allowed to start work at the carbon capture island, which is geographically distinct, it's just north of Cooling Tower 3, we can start that work in May of 2021 under the Energy Transition Act and under the agreement that the current and former participant owners have. The assets should be transferred on or before June 30th, 2022, but we'd love to start in May of 2021.
And I would say our owners have actually been positive about that. They've said, show us what you want to do, show us how you want to do it, show you how you're constructing it, and show how you're keeping it separate from a liability standpoint while we continue operations. So I think it's been very positive with the owners there, honestly. So.
Glad you said ETA. I couldn't say that word earlier, Energy Transition Act, but that was what I was kind of referencing to, just in regards to our earlier conversation. So 2021, May of 2021, that's less than a year from now.
We're pushing very hard. Despite coronavirus, Hank and I work very hard. I have to take a moment to admire Hank. He's, of course, my electricity provider as well as my business partner, and he keeps the lights on. He keeps his team safe. He's got a lot of responsibilities, but he's been a great partner on the carbon capture effort. Absolutely.
Well, Hank, the experience that you've had working out at San Juan Generating Station and being in this world, certainly, I think when we talk about the importance of team and having a team that's experienced, you play such a crucial role. So thank you for all that you're doing in regards to this. We initiated in our most recent study, our cost of service study, we talked about what if we just forwent San Juan Generating Station. This is prior to us speaking with Enchant Energy. What would the cost to the city be? And it's important for people to know the cost to us to allow it to close and have to build and replace that power was $27 million plus, and that was our assets that were unappreciated assets inside the facility, plus another $90 million on top of that to replace the power that we would need.
Correct. Mr. Mayor, right now, again, the luxury of our low rates in Farmington Electric Utility System is we're debt-free. And so we've been conservative as a utility, still had incredible reliability, but our rates have been low. So we have paid cash, if you will, for all our capital investments. As you mentioned, we just have just under $30 million of capital investments that are not depreciated at San Juan plant. So I think our customers and our utility and our community would like to see us get our money's worth out of that.
Well, certainly for a plant that had so much work done to it to retrofit it with clean carbon or clean coal technology, the BART technology as they call it, back in 2015. I mean, we should be able to utilize that and depreciate those assets to the best of our ability.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I can say one of the reasons that the founders of Enchant were so attracted to the plant is just what you and Hank have said. The over $500 million of pollution controls for sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, particulates, and mercury, the four main so-called criteria pollutants. And so those have all been substantially reduced at or above the Environmental Protection Agency levels. And so the fifth pollutant, carbon dioxide, will be mitigated such that under the coming New Mexico law in 2023, the Energy Transition Act, the ceiling in the act is 1,100 pounds. We're currently at 2,200, but we're going to drop down well below 1,100 to 249, under a quarter of the New Mexico limit. So this is going to be, by all analysis, the cleanest fossil plant in North America. It'll be baseload, it'll be dispatchable, and it'll be super clean. The five pollutants will have been mitigated, and we're very proud to work with Mitsubishi because they will guarantee, and they're a very large and powerful company with a very big balance sheet, they will guarantee the performance of the carbon capture such that we will strip more than 90% of the carbon for the 12 years, a total of 72 million metric tons. It's an enormous amount of greenhouse gases that will never go into the atmosphere, more than 90%. So that's well in excess of what the various international climate efforts have talked about. So as someone who's done wind and solar and considers himself an environmentalist, I'm incredibly proud to be living here in Farmington and working on this project. As you said, Mayor, we need to sustain the jobs, sustain a way of life, keep baseload power. The wind and solar, having developed them, I will tell you, you can't keep the lights on all the time. But San Juan plus carbon capture is really the ideal solution. So as you said earlier, Mr. Mayor, it is the transition. We can't get to 100% renewables tomorrow. For instance, no battery exists at the size of the plant Hank has been at for decades, 847 megawatts. It's an enormous project. But carbon capture is that appropriate technology that will allow us to be sustainable, renewable as it were, but also to be able to keep the lights on and the jobs and the economic development and continuing a way of life. People in this community, I'm now one of them, count on this plant. We can't just shut it down. That's not a responsible argument. And I say to my environmental friends that San Juan plus carbon capture is the appropriate response.
I like the way you talk, Peter. That's meaningful. And I think it's important for people to know it's an all-hands-on-deck type mentality when you're looking at what the global impact is of bringing in this kind of technology, and then just being able to laser focus it here to this area and what it will do for our community. I mean, it's really critical, which is why we've spent as much time as we spent in going to Washington, D.C., and advocating for the project and in bringing all the partners together. One partner we haven't talked about, and I want to make sure we do before we go, is Westmoreland Coal Company. Westmoreland's obviously been there at the very beginning of all this. It's important. They play an important piece. We need the coal to power the plant.
Need the coal.
And so where are we at in where is Enchant and the city of Farmington at in regards to their relationship with Westmoreland?
Mr. Mayor, I've had a personal journey involving the coal mine. I just want to tell your viewers, I'm a kid from New York City. I'd never been to a coal mine. I never met coal miners. I spent a very powerful evening at the Civic Center here in Farmington when the Public Regulation Commission had an open hearing, and more than 200 miners and power plant workers came and testified. I've since gotten to know some of them. I've been in the coal mine. Of course, I've been out at the power plant. These are important, well-paying jobs. 2 generations of folks have been able to enter the middle class because of the power plant and the mine, including historically 40% of the workers and the miners are native Navajo. So this is very personal for me. We do want to continue to keep the coal mine open. We do want to put carbon capture on it because we care deeply about the miners and the power plant workers. Of course, Hank has worked shoulder to shoulder with them for a couple decades, but
I've known him a little bit longer.
Yeah.
As someone who's just moved here, Mr. Mayor and Hank, I've been very moved by the stories they've told. As you said, it's the school district, it's the tax base, and most importantly, it's the miners and the power plant workers and their well-paying jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, Hank, you know, the times we've been at the hearings for the ETA, we would have 40 miners there with us every time we showed up for committee meetings. These are individuals that I've gone to school with and I've known my whole life as well. And their families are important. And having these kind of economic-based jobs where people can can leave, maybe go to college, go other places, but come back to and make a good living. And I mean, when we talk about economic diversification, I really think sustaining what you have while you're trying to grow these other areas is key. Cutting off a leg, so to speak, and then trying to hop around to try and bring people in makes it much more difficult, because you lose a lot of that momentum, a lot of that tax base that you can, that would be there to back it up.
It doesn't buffer, and then you lose it, right, in that gap while
Right.
you're coming back, right?
So, I mean, the importance of this project cannot be understated, in my opinion. And that's why we put so much work and effort into it. And I appreciate, Hank, everything that you have done, and as well as our legal department and city manager, and everybody's really.
They've been supportive drastically, Mr. Mayor. I jumped in, but Jennifer Brickell, our city attorney, has worked tirelessly. And in this COVID times, I think Peter and I would say, I think I have all 11 platforms for any kind of electronic virtual meeting that you can think of right now. So this company uses Google Meets, this one uses WebEx, this one uses Teams, right? So we have all kinds of platforms for any virtual meeting that may come to play right now.
Sure. Peter, anything else you want to make sure that we kind of get out in this update here today, just to make sure that we're up, giving everybody as much information as we can?
Just to say, Mr. Mayor, that as I've traveled around the country, and now as I've virtually traveled around the country, there's tremendous excitement. After the New York Times, after Bank of America, I got calls from investors as far away as Tokyo. So I think it's wonderful and remarkable that Farmington and the San Juan project are really nationally and even globally important. We have a global dream team, as I call it, of Mitsubishi, Sargent & Lundy, and Kiewit Power Constructors. They're the ones who actually built the current world's largest project at my old company, NRG. So I think for your viewers, you talked about an evolution of existing technology. The current world's largest project is one train, which is a technical term for how the carbon is stripped. We're going to have 4 trains. So as Hank knows better than I, this is an evolution, but it's not the bleeding edge, it's just the leading edge. And I think that's just the right place for Farmington, the San Juan project, and San Juan County to be.
Excellent. Hank, any final thoughts?
I think what I continue with my mindset is this is a very complex project with a lot of moving parts, as you mentioned, but every step we take is in the right direction. And every step reinforces why we started as, with your leadership, Mayor, back in 2018, looking for that solution for those 1,500 jobs. It's a long journey and it's very complex, but every step's been in the right direction, and there has not been a showstopper yet for the project, and that's very optimistic. I'm very proud to work on it.
Well, let me just say, I mean, the part that I play is just one part of so many different people playing parts into this. But the way that we've been able to walk together, kind of step in step, so to speak, and including, you know, when we talk about San Juan College, bringing them into the fold, and the part that San Juan County has played as well in advocating for this type of exchange, and Central Consolidated School District, and it really speaks to the regional effort of economic diversification and sustaining jobs, and we're doing it for the right reasons, and that's where my heart lies in all of this. So thank you, both of you, and for the Enchant Energy team, we're just very appreciative. For those who aren't here with us today, thank you for representing them very well, Peter. And Hank, thank you for all that you do for the city of Farmington, already within the electric utility, but certainly within this project. We couldn't do it without either one of you. So thank you for tuning in today to the Mayor's Table. We appreciate all that you're doing out there in the city of Farmington. As always, stay positive, keep your head up, keep your chin moving forward, and we'll see you next time right here on the Mayor's Table.